On the night of January 23rd, 1961, a hydrogen bomb fell out of the sky over North Carolina. Not a test, not a drill. A live 4-megaton weapon, more than 250 times stronger than the bomb that flattened Hiroshima, falling toward a sleeping American town. And when it came down, it did something no accident is ever supposed to do. It began to go off. It ran through almost every step of its own detonation sequence. Almost. For 52 years, your government swore there was never any danger, that these bombs simply could not explode by accident. That was not true. And the proof was sitting in a seal file the whole time. This is the Goldsboro incident. And this is the file they kept closed for half a century. To understand how a hydrogen bomb ends up falling on American soil, you have to understand how afraid the people in charge really were. At the height of the Cold War, the United States believed a Soviet first strike could wipe out its bombers on the ground in minutes. So the Air Force came up with an answer that sounds insane today. Keep the bombers in the air at all times. Operation Chrome Dome, around the clock, every hour of every day, fleets of 52 bombers flew over the United States, already loaded with live thermonuclear weapons, ready to turn toward the Soviet Union at a moment's notice. The thinking was cold and simple. A bomber already flying cannot be destroyed on the runway, but it also meant that fully fueled aircraft carrying the most powerful weapons ever built were circling above American homes constantly. Fly enough of those missions for long enough, and the math becomes its own kind of countdown. Sooner or later, one of them was going to come down. That night, the bomber was a bit 52 out of Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, just outside the town of Goldsboro. It was routine flight. During an air refueling, the tanker crew noticed something wrong. Fuel was streaming out of the bomber's right wing. The mission was called off, and the aircraft was told to return to base. The leak was not slowing down. In a matter of minutes, the bomber lost tens of thousands of pounds of fuel, and the wing itself was failing. As the crew brought the aircraft down through 9,000 feet, the controls stopped responding. The 52 went into an uncontrolled spin and started tearing itself apart in midair. The order was given to bail out. 8 men were on board. 5 of them made it out alive. 3 did not. And as the aircraft broke into pieces above the farms and houses of Goldsboro, the bomb bay let go of what it was carrying. 2 Mark 39 hydrogen bombs dropping free over North Carolina. Each of those Mark 39 bombs carried a yield of roughly 4 megatons. To put that in human terms, a single one of them was more destructive than every bomb dropped by every nation in the entire Second World War combined. Several times over, as the aircraft disintegrated, the 2 weapons fell away. And this is the moment the story stops being a tragic accident and becomes something far darker.
As the first bomb dropped, the violent forces of the breakup did something almost unthinkable.
They mimicked the exact sequence the bomb was designed to follow when a pilot drops it on purpose on an enemy target. The weapon did not know it was an accident. It behaved as if it had been deliberately released over a city it was built to destroy. Its parachute deployed to slow the fall and set up the blast. Its internal systems woke up. One by one, the arming steps that were supposed to fire only over enemy soil began to fire over the United States. A Mark 39 was not supposed to do this. It was built with a chain of independent safety mechanisms, series of separate switches and arming stages, each one a wall standing between an accident and a mushroom cloud. For the bomb to detonate, every single one of those walls had to fall in the right order. On the bomb that came down over Goldsboro, they fell. The shock of the breakup, the spin, the deployment of the parachute, all of it knocked the safeties down one after another. The weapon armed itself in the air. The firing signals lined up, and when investigators later traced what had happened, they found something that should make your blood run cold. Of all the safety devices meant to keep that bomb from exploding, every layer but one had been defeated. What was left was a single switch, one ordinary low voltage arm and safe switch, a cheap little component you could hold between 2 fingers. That one switch and nothing else stayed in the safe position. If it had flipped like all the others, a 4-megaton hydrogen bomb detonates at ground level in North Carolina. The fireball alone vaporizes everything for miles, and the fallout, carried on the winter wind, drifts north. Later studies suggested the radioactive cloud could have reached Washington, Baltimore, Philadelphia, even New York City. Millions of people downwind, and the only thing standing between them and that morning was one switch that by sheer luck did not fail. Remember, there were 2 bombs. The first nearly detonated in the air. The second wrote a different ending, and in some ways a stranger one. Its parachute never opened. with nothing to slow it. The second Mark 39 slammed into a soft, waterlogged field at an estimated 700 miles per hour and drove itself deep into the earth. Recovery teams arrived and began to dig. They pulled up most of the wreckage.
But the heart of the weapon, the part that actually produces the thermonuclear blast, its uranium secondary stage, was lost.
It had punched too far down into the saturated ground, and the hole kept filling with water. After digging past 50 feet, the Army gave up, so they did something quiet and permanent. Instead of recovering it, the United States government simply bought the rights to the land, fenced off the spot, and walked away. To this day, a piece of a live hydrogen bomb remains buried in a farm field outside Goldsboro, North Carolina, exactly where it fell. And while that core sat in the mud, the official story above ground stayed clean and calm. There was no danger. The weapons could not have produced a nuclear explosion. The public had nothing to worry about. That line held for decades, and it might have held forever, if not for one piece of paper. In 2013, more than half a century after that night, a journalist used a Freedom of Information request to pry loose a document the government had kept classified. It was a memo written in 1969 by a man named Parker Jones. Jones was not a conspiracy theorist or an outsider. He was a senior engineer at Sandia National Laboratories, the institution directly responsible for the safety of America's entire nuclear arsenal. He was exactly the person whose job was to know the truth. He titled his report Goldsboro Revisited. And in it, in plain, unguarded language, he wrote what the public had been denied for years. He concluded that one simple low-voltage switch had stood between the United States and a major catastrophe. The government's own weapons engineer, in the government's own secret files, confirmed the nightmare in writing. The bomb very nearly went off. They had known the truth all along, and for 52 years, they had told you the opposite. So what does Goldsboro really leave us with? It is not just a frightening story about one bad night in 1961. It is a story about a distance. The distance between what the people in charge knew and what they were willing to tell. A hydrogen bomb fell on American soil and came within a single failed switch of detonation. And the response was not honest. It was offense, a sealed file, and a reassuring lie that lasted half a century. Their own expert admitted that the only thing that saved hundreds of thousands of lives was a part they themselves did not fully trust. Here's the question you keep coming back to. If it took them 52 years to admit how close Goldsboro really came, how many other nights like it are still sitting in a vault, still buried in a field somewhere, still waiting to be read? Tell me in the comments what you think they are still keeping from us. And if you want to keep opening the files they tried to close, you know exactly what to do.